Aloha everyone, and welcome back to the Kilauea Eruption and Leilani Estates update for July 3rd, 2018. Tonight I'm really not going to talk about Fissure 8 or much of the activity since it has pretty much remained unchanged from yesterday. Instead I'm going to talk about something else that has popped up today. Got a letter in the mail, and since then I've been trying to figure out exactly what I was going to say in the update tonight about it. Wasn't quite sure where to start. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to show you the letter, and I'll read it to you as well. Alright, here's the letter. It is basically a one-page, very short. It was sent from the County of Hawaii Department of Finance Real Property Tax Division Office. However, it is on County of Hawaii Civil Defense Agency stationery. Interesting. At the top of the letter on the left, we see three people: Harry Kim, our mayor, the managing director, and the deputy managing director. Over on the right hand side, of course, we see that wonderful name, Talmadge Magno, the civil defense administrator. And it's entitled Kilauea East Rift Zone Volcanic Eruption 2018 Uninhabitable Conditions. The date of issue is June 22nd, 2018, and the body of the letter reads as follows. The purpose of this letter is to document the hazardous conditions under the current state of the eruption. Subject property, owner's name, TMK, and street address have been censored for privacy. Damage assessment. As of the date of this letter, the subject property is an uninhabitable dwelling located in the voluntary evacuation area of Leilani Estates. Voluntary evacuation area of Leilani Estates is in bold. This area is in proximity to the active fissures where there is imminent danger to property and bodily injury from lava projectiles, high concentrations of SO2, and glass particulates called Pele's hair that pose a health hazard if inhaled. These hazardous conditions will persist indefinitely as long as the volcanic activity remains active or unstable. If you have any questions, you may call Civil Defense at area code 808-935-0031. The letter is signed by Talmadge Magno, Civil Defense Administrator. And when I say signed, it's typed. There is no physical signature or even a photocopy of a signature. Okay, that's what the letter says. You've all heard it. You've all seen it. Now, let the questions begin, because this letter has really made me stop and think and ask a bunch of questions to myself and to a few others that I've spoken with about this as well. The first question that I really have to ask myself is, how does this make me feel? And after reading the letter multiple, and I do mean multiple times, because of course, having to record this, I had to read it like, I don't know, 6 times to get it right, and even then I still stumble over a few words, but that's beside the point. How does it make me feel? It makes me feel confused, first and foremost. And of course that confusion, makes me aggravated. And then when I get aggravated, I tend to get, a little angry and upset. So simply put, I'm confused, I'm aggravated, and I'm angry. So to help understand, why it makes me feel this way, I'm going to point out a few things in the letter and discuss them a little bit and how they relate to me. And, well, relate to how it makes me feel, that is. Just a quick disclaimer, I'm no lawyer or anything like that. What I'm about to say about this letter is, of course, just my opinion. It's based on, my limited information and knowledge set that I have on such situations as this, and the fact that I really try to look between the lines when reading some stuff, because sometimes that's where you find the most truth. It's not necessarily with what's being said, but with what's not being said. Alright, first, the letter opens with this statement. The purpose of this letter is to document the hazardous conditions under the current state of the eruption. Alright, sounds simple enough. So what I expect now is everything else to follow, to basically be talking about, the hazardous conditions. Great. Okay, so we move on, and of course it identifies the owner and the property, references with street address, and then it goes damage assessment. And this is really what gets me, because first of all, shouldn't it be hazardous assessment? Damage assessment means that there's damage to the above property. Okay, but the letter says it's to document their hazardous conditions. Maybe splitting hairs there, because a damaged location could be hazardous. But it seems a little either redundant or possibly contradictive. I'm not quite sure. Next, it moves on to say, as of the date of this letter, which, just for reference, was June 22nd, 2018, the subject property is an uninhabitable dwelling located in the voluntary evacuation area of Leilani Estates. And that's the one that really kind of gets me. So this means that my property is uninhabitable, but yet I am living here, and it is inhabited, and it is completely habitable. I am fine. The plants are fine. You know, there was no one sick. There's nothing happening. There's no SO2 really to you know, even talk about. So I'm not quite sure why it's been deemed uninhabitable. I don't know of any soil test or, you know, air test or any type of, you know, environmental study of my location or my house or any of my neighbors' houses that would support that the area, you know, that the dwelling is uninhabitable. And the fact that it's located in a voluntary evacuation area of Leilani Estates. Okay, that's the upper half. Okay, that's correct. But if it's voluntary, then why is it now being called uninhabitable? If it was uninhabitable, like, you know, in the lower area next to the fissure, wouldn't there be a mandatory evacuation for the upper half as well? Now, don't get me wrong, I don't want a mandatory evacuation, but it's one of those things that doesn't quite make a lot of sense. It confuses me. I don't understand where this arbitrary, you know, classification of uninhabitable dwelling is coming from. I wish, you know, Talmadge Magno would come, you know, down to my gate and, you know, let me show him around, you know, but maybe he's afraid of the SO2, which, according to the EPA monitors, right now, oh, I had the note somewhere. Hold on, let me grab it. As of 3 p.m., July 3rd, the sensor down on the Compono area, which, by the way, on the map, they seem to have moved, and they've relabeled it as the Leilani cell tower location. However, the dot on the map don't match that location either. But anyways, that sensor is reading 0 parts per million for sulfur dioxide, 0 parts per million for hydrogen sulfide, and the one up at Leilani in 130 at 3:03 p.m. was reading 0 parts per million for sulfur dioxide, 0 parts per million for hydrogen sulfide. And all y'all that's been watching my videos have also, you know, heard these numbers, and, you know, there's very rarely an actual reading on these sensors. So I don't understand what makes this area uninhabitable. But that goes on to the letter. I guess they try to justify this by saying this area is in proximity to the active fissures, where this is, this area is in proximity to the active fissures, where there is imminent danger to property and bodily injury. And they list the 3 things that make it hazardous, which is lava projectiles. I haven't seen many lava projectiles. I've seen some tephra, but that's not very uncommon. That was very widespread. It all depended which way the wind was blowing at the time, you know, and how strong it was. High concentrations of SO2. Well, I just gave you all the readings, and y'all been hearing the readings, you know, that I've been giving, you know, for weeks. And 0 parts per million, wow, that's really high, isn't it? So, no, okay, I make fun, but still, it doesn't make any sense. And then, you know, glass particulates called Pele's hair. Absolutely. I give them that one. Definitely have a Pele's hair issue. However, from what I understand from a lot of people over here on the east side of the island, both south and north of my location, they're having to deal with Pele's hair as well. And the funny thing is, they're dealing with more VOG and things as well than we are. So I don't understand how these things can be, arbitrarily stated, in a blanket letter, for all of Leilani Estates subdivision. Because I will agree that yes, there are addresses that the houses are still standing, and the locations are in very close proximity and are being inundated with higher levels of SO2, lava projectiles, heavy deposits of cinder and tephra, if there is a difference, Pele's hair, blah, 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 on and on and on. And they're basically at the mercy of the wind direction. That's really what seems to be controlling, the SO2 and all this other stuff, is which direction the wind is blowing. That's the area that gets it that day. But a lot of it don't travel very far. And so moving on, though, there is a lot of addresses in Leilani Estates that have really not had anything, as of right now. I mean, of course, yeah, things can change, and if things change, then yeah, things like this should change. But I really feel that this letter just was inappropriately timed, because what does this all mean? Well, the way I would interpret it is that my property is now worthless. It's been labeled uninhabitable dwelling, so the property value is 0, because you can't get any permits, you can't do anything with the property, you can't even sell it at this point. So I couldn't rent it out. I just basically got a box on a slab at this point that I can't legally use for anything, if it's been deemed uninhabitable. So what all does that mean? It's really scary. It's really confusing. And I could sit here and just, go on and on and on about this. But I think I've made it kind of clear why I'm confused and why that's aggravated me, and why now I'm seeming a little angry. I want more answers, and I think they should have been a little bit more descriptive, and I also think they should have been a little bit more public, because I heard, talk, over the last few weeks about, all of Leilani being deemed uninhabitable, blah, blah, blah. But I chalked it up to the rumor mill, because I haven't really seen anything in mainstream media news here, or any official statements on the civil defense websites, or even, any news conferences with Mr. Magno himself. Which, so, that's that. Alright, guys, I'm gonna wrap it up, basically, because there's really, nothing more to talk about. Thank you for listening. Quick update on the volcano. Fissure 8 is still active, doing its thing. Fissure 22 is still active, shooting up lava fountains about 50 meters or so, I think the report said, and producing, short flows that are traveling around the northern edge of existing flows. Of course, we've had another collapse explosion event up at the summit. So, it's like I said last night, a lot of this is pretty much status quo. This is the daily routine, it seems to be. So hopefully this will come to an end soon. So anyways, don't forget to check me out on my doinhawaiismugmug.com account and my Redbubble as well. Links are in the description as usual. Thank you for listening, and all that. So that's it, guys. This has been the Leilani Estates update for July 3rd, 2018.